Hello everyone. Today I would like to give you an idea about how we use FlexSim in healthcare applications and also talk about industrial engineering applications overall. So as you may know, industrial engineering is the ability to be able to engineer industrial settings, but the meaning of industrial setting is much different than what you can think of. It could be financial settings, it could be healthcare settings, it could be many different settings such as manufacturing, um, various systems that you might be a part of. And overall, we would like to be able to engineer the environment. That's one of the things that we do. And therefore, there's some sort of overlap with civil engineering and industrial engineering in the sense that you may want to actually come up with the design of a city. You may want to have industrial engineering skills to be able to do that, but also civil engineering skills might be an important part of that. Now, the reason that I'm explaining this is because one of the camp participants asked me the meaning of industrial engineering and how we actually use industrial engineering. Industrial engineering is very broad. We have students who graduated from Quinnipiac industrial engineering who actually started working for a hospital, who also work for Sikorsky, for example, which is a manufacturer for military. And there are several settings actually industrial engineers work for, and they can work for financial sector. An industrial engineer can work for city environment, could work for postal office. In industrial engineering, we also deal with analysis of data sets. We deal with simulation of environments, like I mentioned in here. We have production systems where you get to learn about various production systems for engineering different environments, as well as supply chain. A supply chain is simply actually the best way to put it, I believe, is it's a chain of supply of companies. So you would like to be able to transport goods from one location to the other, and there is a chain of transportation, for example, and you would like to be able to manage this transportation system or the chain of supply and come up with the most cost-effective way to do this, the smartest way that you can come up with. And as much as you know about such a system, as good as it is, because you can actually come up with different methodologies to structure such a setting. If you're interested in healthcare systems, then you could be a part of a hospital, and you can work on, for example, just like here, inventory management, because in healthcare items expire and they cost a lot to hospitals. So you want to be able to have a smart way to approach to the system and decline the expiration of medicine and some other items that are used in healthcare. And this is one aspect. Another aspect is to have structured methodology for example, bed utilization within a hospital, and or just like here, and staffing of the hospital. For example, how would you assign? Scheduling is another aspect of industrial engineering, and these are the things that we are teaching at Quinnipiac Industrial Engineering. This is not necessarily true for all industrial engineering programs at other places, just to be clear here. And sometimes you would like to be able to schedule patients. Therefore, you need to have the right amount of chairs in the waiting room. So you would like to actually schedule that. You would like to be able to schedule patients for surgeries. That's another aspect of it. One of the projects that we work on with a hospital within our region, in the Connecticut region, was related to figuring out the surgery schedule, because when one surgery starts late, the following surgery is late. Therefore, the rest of the surgeries are also late. Therefore, how can we decline that was one of the aspects that we dealt with as a part of one of the course projects in industrial engineering. And industrial engineering, my students, actually I was teaching that course, and my students, a group of students, came up with the fact that if about 26 to 28 minutes surgeries start earlier in the morning, the first surgeries, then the second surgery could start on time for about 76% of the time, or it was slightly higher maybe. Therefore, you come up with such smart ways to change the schedule, but of course, you learn all these techniques throughout the courses that you take. Therefore, it's not something that you necessarily have to come up with, but you learn different techniques to be able to improve such systems throughout your education. And what I believe is that you actually get to understand such systems. Therefore, they can be also helpful in your life when you make decisions. Because as a part of this, you get to learn how to act smart and you make decisions, because one of the most important things in industrial engineering is being cost effective for whatever we do. For example, in this hospital setting that you see, there are operations that cost. Therefore, how would you schedule these rooms so that you utilize them in the best way you can? But of course, there are underlying conditions that you cannot overrule, that are determined by the hospital management. Therefore, you get to work with the hospital management. So as a part of simulation, actually, what do we do? First of all, we come up with the environment just like here. For example, there is a hospital, and I would like to show you the 3D view of what I structured for you. This is a model that I built, which is really neat because you get to see not the model that I built, but the view of FlexSim is really neat in the sense that you get to see all different aspects of it, of the environment. So this is unfinished. I also have the finished version here that I'll show you later on, just like here, as you can see. But for now, I'm just going to show you the version that I have here. So the way it works is that I actually get to learn the details. So an industrial engineer usually obviously working in the place and understanding and collecting data on all the aspects of the environment. For example, there's a room, there are 3 chairs like this, where there's a nurse and a doctor, let's say, who are actually assigned to these rooms, but this doctor and nurse might be assigned to other rooms at the same time, and there's a waiting room with 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, about 12 chairs in this room, and there's a nurse who is with a desk here, and so on and so forth. So there's a crash cart, and here is maybe a surgery room depending on the type of the hospital we are in, and so on and so forth. And as you can see, there is a front desk for checking in. Now, the important thing, first of all, is to structure such an environment physically. And later on, the second step is to collect data based on our interest. For example, we would like to, and as small as the project is, as good as it is. For instance, this room is only reserved for one operation. Therefore, we would like to be able to schedule patients to this room. But first of all, we need to collect data in the existing environment. So that depends on the recording that is done at the front desk, either here or here. And then you realize that this room is utilized about 56%, let's say, which is one of the projects that we did in industrial engineering program, by the way, as a capstone project. So if you're more interested in learning about these projects, I'll be happy to explain you, especially if you're interested in coming to Quinnipiac Industrial Engineering Program. So as a part of this, you get to schedule, you get to collect data and find out that this room is utilized only 56%. Then obviously you'd like to take advantage of this room better. Therefore, what would you do? you need to look at the patient schedule, understand what is happening in this room, and then figure out how you can reorganize this schedule so that you can put in more patients. Of course, there are certain underlying things that you should keep in mind, such as setup time for preparing the patient, calling the patient, and there are some things that nurse might be doing with the patient before the doctor sees the patient. Therefore, you need to consider all these facts as a part of that room utilization, which could be 56%. Then you can talk with the managerial system, and the managerial system or the manager here might say, well, I am interested in, or we are interested in as a hospital, only utilizing 80% of this room at most. And this is not so unusual because there could be extreme cases where there might be a walking patient that you might have to take care of, and so on and so forth. So then you can increase 56% to 80% by rescheduling the patients, and you actually come up with a meaningful system to be able to do that. So what I explain you is simply first structuring the environment, right, physically, by using FlexSim, for example. And then you get to collect data on how you can actually, the current utilization of this room, for instance. And then right after that, you come up with a strategy that helps to utilize this room better. Right after that, you suggest this improvements, or you can run that by using FlexSim simulation, for instance, to see how much you can utilize. First of all, after collecting this data, you would like to structure FlexSim to be able to run and see how the current system works. And you want to validate your program with that so that you understand your current simulation program reflects almost reality. It may not be perfect. For example, the data indicates you can utilize this 56% of the time. And when you enter the credentials in the simulation program, your program runs for about 55% utilization. Then it's a good reflection. Then right after that, you come up with a strategy which helps to actually improve the existing environment. You run the program again, and let's suppose you see that your program utilizes 77% of the room. That means you have about 21% improvement in the existing patient treatment, which is something really high in terms of percentage for a room. So improving it from 56% to 77%, 21% improvement in it is something very good. So after improvement and running your simulation according to your improvement idea, if you see that it's 77%, you show it to the managerial system. And if the managerial system is okay with your idea of improvement and sees your, the manager sees your understanding, this could be a nurse, this could be the head nurse who can be managing the environment. Then if the manager is okay with what you improved, it can be implemented at the final step. So this is how simulation works in an environment, and this is being done in many different settings. As I mentioned, this is a 3D software that you get to implement. And here, for example, as you can see, there is entrance. On the left hand side, FlexSim Healthcare has different components than the original FlexSim, the general one. Therefore, in this video, I just explain you how it works to structure such a system, but in the next video, I'll be explaining you how you would be able to structure a model of this form and come up with such a setting by using FlexSim Healthcare. So I hope you have a good understanding of how industrial engineering is applied in healthcare in this setting. And there's actually more to be added in manufacturing setting as well as many other systems. So industrial engineers can apply um, their skills in, for example, service systems. It could be a call center where you get to analyze the data of calls that you have, and you may want to assign tellers, those who are answering phones, depending on the quantity of the calls you are receiving during the day. So you can collect data and then you can analyze the data and figure out how many tellers should be answering calls from customers during certain periods of time of the day. For example, the call volume might be really high from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Therefore, you may have to assign more tellers during that time, and you can actually identify the number of tellers to be assigned during that time. I hope you have a good understanding of some of the applications I explained in this video. And I didn't really talk about how you can use FlexSim Healthcare here, but like I mentioned in the next video, I'll be explaining that. And if you have any questions related to industrial engineering applications, and if you're interested in especially coming to Quinnipiac Industrial Engineering, I can give you more ideas about how industrial engineers work and the projects that we completed as a part of the industrial engineering program. Thank you for listening.